It is Tuesday night, and you know what that means. We are a week late, but that is due to everybody having very important lives and busy social lives. I'm not talking about myself, obviously, because all I do is live for you, dear listener. It is the SNL F1 podcast, and we are here to talk about the Emilia Romana Grand Prix, and also some great big news that has happened in the world of Formula One in the recent days. But I can't do that on my own, although I would be capable of it, I'm pretty sure. Multiple personality disorders included. But instead of that, I have got, he's laughing straight away, so I'll go straight to him. It is Matt Psycho. Good evening, Matt Psycho.
Good evening. Who am I talking to? Which of the multiple personalities?
Patrick Tombe right now.
Good evening.
There we go. Second place last weekend on Sunday night at the Red Bull Ring, so congratulations on that. Great fight with Silent Wolf.
Yeah, that was great. I didn't check it off the road this time either. So.
It always helps.
As I noticed you mentioned in the feed, almost gleefully.
I honestly have no idea what I mentioned during the feed. I'm just filling time. And a driver who caused all the issues on Sunday night, it is SNL Wolfbane. Good evening, SNL Wolfbane.
Good evening, Jam. Good evening, Matt.
Yeah. Internet issues are all resolved. Yeah. So, we are here. We are talking about, well, F1 in general, but we have a race to review as well. And the Emiliana... can I just call it the San Marino Grand Prix?
Yes,
that would be so much easier than... I can never get it out of my mouth. Anyway, the San Marino Grand Prix, by another name, happened 10 days ago now. And it was our first view of the F1 cars for 2022 in a sprint race format. So, Matt, I'll go to you first. Sprint races, in general, what are your thoughts, and how do you think this one went?
I assume everyone can hear me, by the way.
Yeah, they can.
Good. Look at that, I got it right first time this time. Sprint races, I think they're... This one was a good one, actually. This one's the best one of the lot so far. I think once Leclerc got out in front, everyone expected him just to run off. And Tyre-Deg played a bit towards the end, and Verstappen obviously came back and then got him 2 laps from the end. So it was really good. I'm still a bit jury's out whether they're good or not. Reason being, for one, that it tends to give drivers a bit of a, if they have a bad quali session, then it gives them a bit of an advantage or opportunity to sort of set it straight. Whereas obviously without it, if you qualify, I think it was Sainz, wasn't he? Was he down in 10th, I think, in quali, and got up to 4th? Whereas obviously in the race, he would have been starting 10th. But I think by and large, I think it's more racy than they expected, and it was great to see Verstappen and Leclerc have a proper on-track battle as well. So I think it's a good thing on balance, but it's slightly frustrating that it tends to resettle the order for the grid for Sunday.
Wolfbane, your thoughts in general of sprint races and this last one as well? It does seem to always lead to a good race. The sprint races that we've had.
They do. They always seem to provide good races. I agree with Matt to a point. They kind of let drivers fix their bad qualifying sessions, which is, it almost feels like it defeats the point of qualifying. But they have the possibility to shake things up so drastically that it's just... I really like them. I think Imola was a strange track choice. It worked, but it's not an easy track to overtake around. And I think sprint races benefit from tracks that are easy to overtake.
But I suppose if they're testing the concept, they need to check it at circuits that are difficult
Absolutely.
to pass on. So that is probably why Imola was chosen. It is a strange one, really, because you have the qualifying on a Friday, which then means nobody really watches the qualifying on the Friday because Channel 4 don't show it, for example, and that's the majority of the audience in the UK watch the Channel 4 coverage. So they don't really show what has happened there. And then you have the sprint.
Do they not show it at all?
Not really. They show little bits from in the build-up on the Saturday,
Right.
but then they're concentrating on the sprint race. So they don't show the session like they would do a normal Saturday qualifying session. So it is a bit of a weird one, really. I personally think that the sprint races are still kind of an extension of the Grand Prix in a weird way. It just feels, it is, as you both have pointed out, a chance to redeem yourself from a poor qualifying session, or to have your race completely scuppered. I mean, Pierre Gasly, he's had Monza last year and this one as well. He doesn't like going to Italian tracks and doing sprint races because they ruin his his weekends by the looks of it. He had that issue with Zhao at Rivazza, where they had that clash. So, yeah, it's worth looking at. It's interesting. Next year we'll have 6 of these as well as I believe they're trying to update the qualifying as well, rejig the format. But I've seen nothing that tells you exactly what that means. I don't know if either of you have seen anything about the new qualifying format, Wolfbane.
I've heard whispers of something changing with qualifying, but nothing concrete, I don't think.
All I can see is it's something to do with tyres, possibly, but again, there's
They've already
nothing.
changed something to do with tyres, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they were talking about running soft, medium, hards in the different
sessions.
In Q1, Q2, Q3.
All right, okay, that doesn't sound like it would do much, really.
Yeah,
But
I think they're looking at playing around and tweaking a bit rather than. I mean, the good thing is they're looking at. I think actually the change they made this year, I think it's a bit of a. I think qualifying is great, and it shows why they haven't really played with it much since 2005. I think they brought this
Yes.
in, but I think going to everyone uses softs in Q2. I think it's taken a little bit away because that's robbed of the sort of strategic.
Yeah.
If you're outside the top 10, you can start on harder compound and do something. I'm not quite sure why they did that. I thought that worked quite well. But yeah, I'm just trying. I think what I've read, I think it was the race that I tend to get most of my stuff from. I think they said they're going to use each compound in each of the sessions. I think was the change there. mulling over.
Pat, as always, has come in on the chat. So if you are listening live, come in on the chat on the YouTube because it helps us so much. If you've got a question as well or something you want to raise, it's always good. Right. And Pat has saved us here. He says a few races next season are trialling 11 sets of tyres and not 13. See if or how that affects on-track time. Oh, so I understand. Thank you very much, Pat. We can always rely on Pat to give us some information. He's brilliant at things like that.
So that'll be interesting. Taking the softs down, that's going to make them. I mean, hopefully, it won't stop them running. But
well, that's always the danger.
Yeah.
Always the danger.
The good old days of qualifying when no one went out for the first 40 minutes.
Oh yeah, ITV used to just put all their adverts in the first 15 minutes and be like, there we go, we've done all the adverts, let's just watch and wait for a Minardi to come out the pits. And that's tended to be what happened. Yeah, so I do miss those sessions, but also I don't miss those sessions in the same instance.
No, I think what they've got now is great.
It keeps the action going.
I feel like they're changing it because it's been the same for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
Rather than because it needs changing, because I don't think it does need changing.
No, I don't think so. You get the jeopardy of the qualifying session and the eliminations, and it's a good session because it forces everybody to come out.
I think the biggest thing is qualifying is pretty much always interesting. Whereas the race can be a little dull in the middle sometimes.
It can. Shall we talk about this race, because that is a good segue into the Emilia Regana Grand Prix, or the San Marino Grand Prix, as I'd like to call it. It's
There we go. Sorry, I'm just reading, doing a bit of research.
Oh,
Hards in Q1, mediums Q2, and softs in Q3. That's
right.
what they play. And when Pat's spot on, it's 13 sets down to 11.
That feels
Might have-
slightly pointless. Just kind of.
Well,
Interesting.
it's assuming some cars work better on different tyre compounds. So
yeah, it could spice things up a bit. Yeah.
it could change things. If you can't turn the hards on, then you're going to have some trouble in Q1. But yeah, there's
Mercedes
some
could be in problems.
Mercedes
Carries
Mercedes are in a lot of trouble. We'll probably mention them at some point. But the race, I mean, we had a wet start for the race, and into turn 2 at Tamburello, Sainz and Ricciardo had a bit of a kerfuffle. That's probably the best way to describe it. And unfortunately, Sainz's poor record right now, he cannot buy any luck. Ended his race in the gravel, 2 DNFs in a row after poor qualifying sessions, and set weekends again that have kind of gone away from him when it could have quite easily been a very strong result. I mean, what do you think's going on with Sainz? Is it just bad luck, Matt, or is it something more fundamental? Is there a conspiracy behind all of this?
No, I think there's probably a bit of. I mean, by his own admission, Leclerc is freaky. He said that a few times now. That I think last year he had a bit of a shock about how quick Leclerc is, and he seems to have adapted very well to the new breed of cars. He's doing a lot of sort of trickery of his left foot, apparently, to keep the car balanced. So I think that's been a bit of a surprise to Sainz, and he seems to be struggling a bit to get his head around the car. I think it starts to snowball a bit. Then I think there's a little bit of pressure in the it's the first car he's had that's capable of winning titles for a start. And I think it's just, some of it's bad luck though, for sure. I think Australia was the one that kind of surprised. I think he said that he surprised himself that it was all snowballing a bit, but he kind of lost his head a bit in the race. And then in Imola in qualifying, he said he wasn't pushing particularly hard, but then obviously lost it, and he was easily through into Q3, and just lost it right at the end of the lap, which I think would have put him fastest at the time. So he's obviously got the pace. It's just these things happen, don't they? The sort of troubles tends to follow. You go through sort of phases of you get into a bit of a rut, and then you kind of maybe subconsciously start doing stuff differently, which then means you get into more trouble. I mean, Ricciardo taking him out wasn't his fault at all, but he was. I guess he had a bad start, and I think Leclerc had a bad start as well, didn't they? So put him in the pack a bit. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he reacts. He's always been pretty calm and pretty good mentally. I mean, he's got to start cutting the gap, otherwise he is. I mean, we said this last Melbourne, didn't we? That he's going to be, pretty much slam dunk number 2, and this just. I mean, in a way, he was quite lucky that Leclerc dropped it, because at least the gap hasn't grown by that much.
It's also.
I really like Sainz. I've always thought, I've always really liked him. I hope he can get his head around what's going on quick enough that he doesn't be resigned to. Because I'd love to see him legitimately win a race, if you like. Actually, no, he hasn't won a race, was it? That was podium. So I think it's kind of a little bit of both. It's fortune has not been with him, but also he's kind of compounding it by making some errors and stuff just where he doesn't need to.
Wolfie, it's an interesting point that Matt sort of brought up there. Obviously, Sainz, we've seen in his McLaren days especially, being very calm and a smooth operator. And here at Ferrari, the first time he's in a race-winning car on pace. Do you think it's more a case of as soon as he gets that first win out the way, he'll calm it down, or is he is he just as Matt says, bad luck that's happening, or is it a combination of all of it?
I think it's a lot of bad luck. I think Leclerc dropping it did. It proved that the car isn't as easy to drive as everyone might think Leclerc's making it look. It's difficult to say because Sainz, as you said, we've seen him be really calm and really cool with the cars, and with in previous seasons he's been very consistent. But it's just I think he's doing kind of what Latifi's doing and taking a very long time to get used to the car, but obviously at a less extreme extent.
That's the insight you want from SNL. Latifi and Sainz being compared. I didn't expect that at all. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Keep going, Wolfwayne.
Yeah, it's just I think he's got the pace in the car. He's proven it so many times already this season. He's got the raw speed. It's just taming the new cars he's struggling with, and in my eyes at least that's fairly similar to what's going on with Latifi, although as I said, to a lesser extent. It's yeah, I think later on in the season it'll get better, and obviously he's got his contract to, is it 2025 now, I think?
I can't remember actually how long the contract extension is. Possibly,
Yeah,
another
so.
3 years.
So.
Yeah,
I think
another 3 years.
So
So very.
He's gonna be there for a while, probably. I don't think he's gonna be anywhere near Leclerc this season. He's just taking too long to get used to the car, and I think Verstappen and Leclerc have just gelled with the car so well. And I think, trying to think of other drivers on the grid that have done similar things. Albon, maybe?
both ends of 2024, by the way, Ferrari drivers.
Both at the end of 2024. Very good. Thank you very much, Matt. Talking of Leclerc, so Leclerc magic with his left foot, and Wolfbane, you mentioned Verstappen as well. Verstappen just looked like he was on a Sunday afternoon drive. As soon as the pressure had gone, off he went, nice and easy. Maximum points for the weekend. He brings himself back into the championship fight. There we were, writing him off. We all said Leclerc would win at Imola, and
we're all wrong.
look what happened. Look what happened. Leclerc, yes, he hit. I mean, you mentioned that the car at Ferrari is difficult to handle. I mean, it does help to have all four wheels on the track and not hit the Variante Alta chicane and just go flying. But I suppose that's the new cars not being as nimble on the curbs as the old ones. And Leclerc was pushing to get past Perez. He was lucky to get away with that, actually. Is Leclerc's tendency, we have seen it before, he does make little errors at times. Leclerc hasn't won a championship before. Verstappen has. We all know, racing in SNL, how it changes you as a driver once you've won a championship. You know you can do it. So is this a case of Verstappen is weirdly the experienced hand against Leclerc? Wolfbane, do you think that's valid, or is it?
To a point, yes. I think the experience and the knowledge, as you said, of knowing you can win is almost a comforting relief. Because you've done it once, what's to stop you from doing it again? In Verstappen's position, he very well could do it again. Leclerc is in the faster car, has started the season faster. He's under a lot more pressure, I think, than Verstappen is. Because he's got off so much better this season. Obviously, Red Bull have had their issues, but I think Leclerc's just got. I don't know. It's a difficult one. They're both. they're both, yeah. Verstappen has the experience, but also doesn't, if that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, both Verstappen and Leclerc are fairly young drivers, and they've both shown that at times they don't use their heads when racing. And I think Leclerc dropping it may be that he was either pushing to get past Perez, or pushing too hard for the fastest lap, or pushing too hard for both. It's... yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see how they both evolve as drivers over the course of the season.
That's an interesting point, actually. We've seen mutual respect between the two as they've fought each other. But Matt, do you think as the title race becomes more intense, we will end up in a Hamilton-Verstappen situation, or was that just a unique situation with the dominance of Mercedes and Red Bull really just wanting to beat Mercedes any which way they could last season?
I think it's probably a bit of both. Red Bull were desperate to beat Mercedes. Verstappen was desperate to win his first title. It's going to be interesting to see how. I think Verstappen. I think you're absolutely right. When you win your first title, you're bound to become a bit more relaxed. Whether Verstappen will have that sort of desperate sort of style in his driving, I don't know. I was reading something the other day about Leclerc and Verstappen go back a long way. And they had, Leclerc said they hated each other at karting, and I think there's quite a well sort of publicised spat they had in one of their karting races when they both got disqualified. So there's that edge that wasn't there with Hamilton and Verstappen. They seem to get on fine, they seem to be racing clean. Verstappen seems to be a little, I don't know, maybe there's not been quite the same situation, but even at the start of last year, they sort of said, there's this respect between Hamilton and Verstappen. But when you sort of look back at it, it was very much Hamilton was backing out to avoid crashes. Doesn't seem to be that edginess yet. Now, whether the sort of backstory brings that up there's not the desperate sort of we need to win and stop Mercedes winning that was last year, but it seems to be pretty friendly so far. They seem to be enjoying racing each other. There doesn't seem to be the sort of snidiness that crept in last year. So I don't know. I think that there's going to be edge to it. I mean, you never know when it starts to come to shove. But Verstappen, I think, to me, feels a bit calmer this year. He doesn't seem to be pushing the envelope quite as much. I think probably the change in stewarded as well. There seems to be much more black and white about track limits and don't take the piss approach. That I think that's going to calm Verstappen down as well. Things like they've stopped him doing his pulling alongside under safety car. That's been banned. Stuff like that. So I don't think I can see the boiling over quite as much as it did last year, but as I say, there is this backstory between the pair of them. So maybe that'll Leclerc, I think, he's brilliant, but every time he makes a big mistake, there's always a reason why it was different from the previous one, and he always says he's going to learn from it. He put it in the wall at Monaco in qualifying and started on pole but didn't. I don't know. I think he's a bit. He reminds me a bit of Villeneuve, Gilles Villeneuve, in that he pushes it to its absolute limit. Every now and then drops it, but that's not going to win you a title.
No.
So, actually, I hadn't really thought about that before, but he does remind me a lot of that sort of, I'm just going to go to the edge and then every now and then I'll get, he'll bite me. So, I think over a season, I just think he'll make too many mistakes and Verstappen will beat him overall. Is my feeling. I think actually Red Bull are going to overtake them in terms of development as well, but So we'll see. Yeah, it just disappointed me that he was, he had a slam dunk third. You don't win titles by pushing everything to get a second. It was just be sensible and bank the points. But
yeah, it is something he has a tendency for doing, and it's a little bit like Sainz beat him last season overall in the championship because of that consistency from Sainz, and Leclerc had a few off weekends where little bits and pieces happened, and it is there. And you mentioned, Matt, in the last podcast about you believe the Red Bull has a higher potential for upgrades. Interestingly enough, Ferrari have said they're not going to get their upgrades on the car for Miami either. So there's no major upgrades on that car, basically since the start of the season, which is highly unusual for a car that is leading the championship, and yet it's not been upgraded. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. If Verstappen wins at Miami, he's within a race win again of Leclerc. So we've said plenty of times that it's a long championship. So,
well, that's quite impressive from Ferrari that they're still where they are without an upgrade, which either means they're kind of they're going to unleash an absolute monster when they do upgrade it, or it means that they're not quite sure how to upgrade. I think they did a diffuser test, didn't they, in Melbourne, and then chose not to race it.
They chose not to race it, yeah.
I mean, it could well be there. They're going to unleash another half a second on it and disappear again. But who knows with Ferrari?
Back to the Schumacher days where they'd come to Barcelona with a brand new car and then just wipe the floor with everybody. That might be the case this season. We'll see. But we've talked about a race really that has been a few days ago now, more than a week ago. Just a quick mention: Lando Norris, third place again. Great podium position for him. McLaren. We joked after Melbourne that McLaren are back. Well, they do seem to be.
You two said they're back. I said they weren't. So what do I know?
I'm feeling very sick right now.
So there you go. Wolfbane, you are obviously the McLaren fanboy here.
Yep.
He's passionate. He's not a fanboy, as another podcast might say. Pleased? Those shoots of recovery seem to be happening. Those brand new brake discs, brake pads and everything seem to be working now. The car looks like it's got a good development.
Yeah, it looks vaguely competent to drive these days.
Vaguely competent. That's what you want from an F1 car.
Yeah. I think if it kind of stays as is in terms of the performance gap between the top few teams, I think we're going to end up with that Mercedes-McLaren fight we were expecting. It might be a very bizarre fight, because at the moment their cars seem to do very different things. I'm obviously very happy to see Norris on the podium, but I think we'll see. We'll see how it goes. They've obviously sorted the major issues they had, or are on the way to sorting them.
And Matt, in terms of Daniel Ricciardo, it just seems to be another case similar to Sainz, where it's just bad luck that seems to be inflicting upon him, and then his teammate goes and gets the podium, and he's sat there down in 18th place, basically as Lando's test dummy for the race. So it must not be a fun place to be in the Honey Badger's shoes right now.
Yeah, I saw the pair of them after the race actually, and I think someone asked him why was he sort of seemingly so happy, and he said, well, the car is going in the right direction, and that's good. He took one for the team, didn't he? But I think he seems to be a bit like Sainz, but I think, I mean, I thought he was a bit unfairly panned at Imola. Yes, he made a slight mistake and bounced off the curb a bit, but first lap in the wet, that stuff happens. Like, because he went and apologised to the Ferrari motorhome, didn't he, and stuff, which I thought was very noble of him, and I think that went down really well. But watching the replays, I think, come on, he was probably, half a metre to the right further than he should have been. But first corner in the wet, that's understandable. But again, it's obviously different circumstances to the Ferrari. It's not a title-winning car yet, but he's. I worry. I worry for Ricciardo. Is he being found out? I don't think so. But this will be another season where either Norris is an absolute megastar. I think he's very, very good, whether he's a megastar, but Ricciardo is, he's not performing as McLaren hired him to, is he?
I think,
for whatever reason.
I think I heard somewhere he was doing the entire race with damage, which is why he finished 18th and didn't really gain anything. At Imola.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think he'd had some damage to the floor, yes, which now is even more vital and more crucial.
I'd say what. Sorry, go. I was just about to say, talking about damage, I don't know if we want to carry on the Ricciardo theme, but I just want to mention, do you see how hard Bottas hit? I think it was Ricciardo. His front wing properly took a punt and didn't cause a problem. It's like, the Alpha front wing is strong. Anyway, back to Ricciardo. We'll get on Bottas later, I'm sure. But he properly hit him hard, and how that thing didn't fall off, and then he carried on.
It didn't look like there was
fine.
any damage on it at all.
Yeah, that's very impressive. But I do fear for Ricciardo. He cannot afford another bad season in Norris's shadow.
It feels a long. It feels a long time since 2017, the beginning of 2017, where he won at China and then he won at Monaco, and it looked like it was all on, and then it just fizzled out. It's very strange to see such a great driver. I do rate Daniel very highly, the way he's won races in the past, but is it just one of those things where he might just end up as one of those drivers that could have been? It's quite scary, really, considering how good he is as a driver. We've mentioned Bottas. I'd like to mention Bottas as well. Mercedes, Russell up there in fourth place. Russell's having a very consistent season, actually. But closely followed by Bottas throughout the race. They had a good little battle. Bottas at Alfa Romeo having a very nice time.
He seems so much more relaxed than he was at Mercedes. It's really nice to see him doing well in an Alfa Romeo. It's like nobody really expects an Alfa Romeo to be finishing fifth, and yet it seems to surprise us every single time it happens. He
could have had fourth, couldn't he, if the pit stop hadn't been so long. He's driving. Yeah, it's great. Just exactly what you say, Wolfbane. He's been freed, I think, by a commitment from a team. He seems to be really loving the mentoring role he's doing as well, leading the team. It's great to. As much as it annoys me because I took him out of my fancy league team, and replaced him with Alonso. That went down. That's gone really well.
That was a foolish move.
No, it's great to see. I mean, he's driving better as well. Who was it? Was it Lance Stroll? He did a really.
Magnussen, he made a nice move into Rivazza 1.
Yeah, that was a cracker. So he just seems to be a different person. So it's great to see. And as you say, Wolfbane, it does seem to be a surprise, isn't it? But they're on the pace, aren't they? It's every track. It's not sort of track specific. It's it's everywhere. So it obviously shows that Ferrari's got a bit of grunt.
Well, talking a bit of grunt in the back of a Ferrari engine in the back, and K-Mag, fourth place in qualifying, held people up in the sprint, but some more points for him. He's showing great again, and he's having a sparkling little return. So it's great to see him there. So just go through sort of the race results. Of Verstappen won, Perez second, backing up Verstappen did everything he should do. Norris third, Russell fourth, Bottas fifth, sixth was Leclerc, seventh Tsunoda. We haven't mentioned him. Eighth, Vettel.
Yay.
Aston Martin. There we go.
Yay.
Matt, you're very happy.
I was actually. Well, let's go back to Tsunoda first. I thought Tsunoda drove brilliantly. Given he nearly dropped it off the line, trying to do two wheels on the grass in Tamburello. But yeah, he really came alive in the second half of the race. He seems to have turned the corner this year. He's really, I think, starting to develop into the driver that sort of a lot of people hoped he would.
I think there's a lot of people that have just kind of picked the car up and been like, "Yep, I can drive this," and there's a lot of people that are there like, "I need time. This thing's not easy to drive," and it is really shaking up the order, and it's bringing surprises in, and it's great.
Yeah, no, I'm loving seeing. I like Tsunoda. I quite like his attitude. He's very heart on his sleeve, which is great. Yeah, no, he seems to be showing Gasly a bit the way this year so far. So, yeah, interesting. And yeah, Vettel, I was dead chuffed with that drive after the abuse he got in Australia. He properly outdrove that car again. I was funny actually when I was watching it. I was like, "Go on, Seb, go on to the slicks." And then it came Seb Vettel in pit. Like, yes, go on. Throw the dice because it's slick weather. And yeah, he jumps. I think he jumped Magnussen by doing that.
He did.
So yeah, no, I was chuffed for him. He can still drive.
He can. It was interesting to hearing some of the feedback. Aston Martin knew they didn't have a good car in the dry, but they knew if it was wet, they could throw a bit of a gamble and try and get points, and they got Stroll into 10th as well. So,
well, did you notice when it was properly wet in qualifying, I think they were 1-2 at one point, and Stroll was quickest.
Yes.
Again, same. I think what we said last time, that he can drive in the wet. He's quick.
It would be nice to see. I believe Aston Martin have a big upgrade coming for that car because they know there is a lot wrong with it. It will be good to see both of them fighting more for the points. But in terms of points as well, only 2 drivers on the grid haven't scored a point yet, and we're only 4 races into the season. That really shows how jumbled up this F1 season is. It is fantastic to see that. So we've just got Schumacher and Latifi who haven't scored, which is very impressive.
Schumacher.
Shall we talk about Michael? Not Mike. Let's talk about Michael. Let's talk about Mick. Matt, what?
I was always a bit dubious with his GP2 record. Formula 2, sorry.
I saw his Formula 2 debut, and he looped it right in front of us.
Yeah, no, I've never been that sold. He's a lovely guy. I've never been that sold on him. Again, this is going to be a bit of a... Yeah, if K-Mag comes in at the last minute and shows him how to drive, which currently he is, that Schumacher, what was he, 10th? Ironic, wasn't he? He finished 10th in the sprint race.
Yes.
His best finish so far this season is 11th.
Yeah, and then dropped it. Well, there was a bit of carnage going on, but he dropped it on the first lap. So yeah, it's... I think, did he spin again at one point?
Possibly. I remember seeing him spin.
So yeah, he's another one who's going to be under pressure now. That if he doesn't start, he does again. He has speed, but he does drop it a lot. I mean, obviously had his biggie in Saudi Arabia, and again, I'm not convinced by him. He needs to start beating K-Mag because every now and then I think wasn't he quicker. He was quick at one stage during qualifying, and then K-Mag pulled out a blinder. But he needs to start demonstrating that, because he's one of Ferrari's drivers, isn't he? But, if he's to be a future Ferrari star, I'm not seeing it personally at the moment.
Wolfbane, any thoughts on Mick?
Yeah, I think Matt said it all. Really, time will tell. It's not looking good so far. Magnussen. I mean, I've always rated Magnussen. He is quick, and I think this is just putting Mick, as Matt said, it's putting him in a very difficult position, being one of Ferrari's supposed future stars, and yet Magnussen jumped in the car and was immediately faster than him. It's not looking good.
I think Mick, we've seen it in his previous categories, he's always been a second season driver. And the fact that they've changed the cars from last season to this, I don't think this helped him much. But yeah, it is a bit worrying, as Matt has said, that K-Mag had barely any build-up and is outpacing him, which is quite scary. If I was Mick, I'd be looking and thinking, well, what is K-Mag doing that I'm not doing? What is he unlocking from the car? And where can I learn from him? And it's good that he's got K-Mag there, because before he had Mazepin, which we all know there's no point learning from Mazepin.
Just no point.
Just no point. So there we go. Anyway, the championship standings. We've got Leclerc leading with 86 points. Verstappen has 59. Perez 54. Russell 49. Sainz 38. So there's that gap. It's nearly 50 points between Leclerc and Sainz, which is 2 race wins. Norris has 35. Hamilton has 28 points in 7th. We haven't mentioned Lewis, actually. That Mercedes really looked bad with its porpoising at Imola. It was the most prominent I think I've seen it.
He was stuck. I don't think there's any other way to put it. At Imola, he was just stuck. The porpoising was slowing him down so much that he just couldn't overtake anyone. And yeah, they were a DRS train, but still, yeah.
Again, it's nothing. It's a team where the bad luck just seems to be going to one driver, and weirdly, it's going to Hamilton. I think, Matt, is that the case?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of articles and a lot of press about, has he finished? Has he lost his motivation? He's been trounced by Russell. I mean, that's all mainly rubbish.
Is it clickbait?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's funny that. There's been a couple of very small things that have put it into Russell's favour. He had a bad start, put him in the midfield. Russell, for once, actually had a cracking first lap, because he always used to suffer, not be particularly strong on the first laps, but he had a cracker and managed to avoid the carnage and got up there, and Hamilton didn't, and that was basically his race done. So yeah, I'm not a huge Hamilton fan, but that swing this year has been, they've been pretty even, I think, and Hamilton's just been a bit unlucky the way it's panned out. But yeah, I mean, it's just fun. Hamilton, unfortunately, I think, he did say champions don't make mistakes at the start of the year, didn't he? When they introduced the new sidepod concept, it's maybe that was that brilliant, because I think he apparently brought it up in one of the interviews as well, just unprompted. I still have got this sneaky suspicion they're going to unleash an absolute monster once they unlock it. But it may well be just that the floor is flexing so much because there's no side pods to support it that the concept's flawed. But I don't think so. I think in Miami they're going to do some updates and we might see them start to dominate. But it's just bizarre to see him in such a situation that the Ferrari can porpoise can bounce, but they seem to get away with it. The Mercedes, I think Russell said at the end he was starting to get chest pains. I mean, there's got to be a limit where you say, if we're compromising the driver's health, I know they say that if it's quick they'll put up with an uncomfortable ride, but when it's getting that bad, you think, I don't know, it's just a team of their size with their resources can't get a handle on it that quickly.
The concept must be, they must have seen something in the wind tunnels that have gone the way they are, but real life is different to the artificial world, as we all know. But yeah, that's an interesting point about the narrow side pods not making the floor flex a bit more. That's an interesting point. I've not heard that actually from anywhere. Pat has put in the comments, I think I read somewhere that Mercedes were having to lift in a straight line at Imola in one of the practice sessions to try and minimise the porpoising effect. I think I've read that as well.
Yeah,
And
I heard
also,
that.
I've read as well, because of Mercedes' low rake concept in the previous generation of cars, they may be having issues with the flooring as well, because they weren't using the floor maybe as effectively as other teams that were using higher rakes. For example, Red Bull were the prominent ones. So that is also a possibility. They're just... I'm still standing by. I think this will be the first season Hamilton doesn't win a race.
Oh, that's bold.
It's a bold
I
statement.
said it in the... I can't remember which one it was, whether it was the Bahrain post-race or whether it was the pre-season. It was very early on. I'm still standing by that. So we'll see.
I think if there's a season to make that prediction, it's this season. But I think
being
it's a
brave.
very
That
bold
doesn't mean you
prediction.
agree with it, though, Wolf.
No,
it doesn't.
No, I don't agree with it.
I'm being bold. I'm putting it on the line. There we go. And I'll get the Nico Rosberg memes out and be like, Hamilton finish, boom, 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 bang. Anyway, let's change it up a little bit. We've got Miami coming up. If you haven't seen the memes that have been going around with their harbour, their marina. Oh, please just look some of them up because they are hilarious. It feels like that is taking away from the fact that we've got a Miami Grand Prix, and next year we'll have 3 American races, which is amazing. What should we expect from this weekend coming up, or are you just enjoying the fact we're going to Miami, baby?
I think it's kind of a novel concept for F1 to be racing in Miami of all places. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's about I don't really have any expectations going into this. It'll be an interesting one.
I'm similar to Wolfbane, to be honest. I have no idea what to expect from this. Matt, any thoughts?
I'm just annoyed I'm not there.
I think that tends to be. Apparently, the prices of the tickets are ridiculous, though. So,
Disney World and Formula One. I mean, crikey, that's perfect.
My partner and I, we were looking at the weekend. We were looking at Las Vegas for the Las Vegas GP on the Strip, and we're like, "Oh, that looks good." And then we realised it was November, and there's no chance we would get to America in November, given our jobs, which is really annoying.
Or something. But I'm a bit annoyed they didn't do it next year because it works. I'm trying to persuade. It's my 50th in November. Wouldn't this be perfect? But I need to bring forward a year. But yeah, but no, the Miami one. I think it looks. Apparently, the track looks good. From drivers are saying, I read today that the sims look good. So yeah, it could be. I think it could be a bit of a Saudi type track. Not as quick, but.
It still looks.
I mean,
like it'll be a
I'm
fun
happy.
track.
It's America has always been somewhere F1 needs to crack. Having 3 races, bring it on. I reckon. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think it's a positive way. And do you remember when Bernie said he wasn't interested in anyone under 30 because they had no money, and social media was a pointless thing. I mean, since Liberty has taken over, F1 has grown massively into those markets and is proving very popular in America. So there we go. Anyway, we won't talk about Bernie because we could be here for about 7 hours if we talked about him. And
Sprinklers.
let's. Pardon?
Would you like some sprinklers on the F1 circuits?
Oh, that would be a great idea.
Race is always good.
They are always good. Quick mention as well, it's not official, although it's as official as it can be without being official, Porsche and Audi are pretty much coming to F1 until something happens and they don't come into F1. Porsche and Audi, Matt, big history in the sports, in motorsport. Audi not in Formula One, but both of them have obviously had massive success at Le Mans and in other categories, and GT racing with Audi as well. Excited? Pessimistic? Where are you at with this?
Well, until they say they're definitely doing it, I'm not convinced, because apparently it's still pending. I think I read as the phrase they've used. I think they're waiting for the 2026 rules to be finalised. VW have got a long history of blowing hot and cold. I hope it happens. I'd love to see Porsche, a Red Bull Porsche. Sounds pretty good, which I think is where it's going to go. They're going to take over the badging of the Red Bull Technologies, they call it. I'm still not sure how the Honda thing's going to work, because it's a sort of semi-works Honda engine again, isn't it? So that sort of feels a bit weird to me, and I've not sort of read anything on how that's going to get resolved. That Porsche will effectively take over a Honda engine.
I've read that Porsche will not rebadge a Honda engine.
Yeah, so
and Honda definitely would not allow that either. I don't think, because they still have.
They've got an engine they've developed.
Yes.
Back in I think 2018 or something. So, and the Audi bit is, you've got two of VW's brands competing against each other, but it sounds like Porsche is going to be more of an engine, and Audi is TBE. I think they'll take McLaren. Yeah. Well, that was that rumour, wasn't it? That, remember the auto car broke it. I think they got absolutely crucified, saying that it wasn't true, and a publication such as Autocar, which is arguably probably the biggest car mag in the UK, getting that wrong, I think is very unlikely. So yeah, Audi coming back in, talking about maybe more than just an engine. Autocar saying that the deal was done. I don't know. 2 and 2 equals 6 maybe, but sounds to me like Audi are looking to take someone over. I love it. Ultimately, having Porsche and Audi in would be brilliant. I'm just a bit sceptical of anything VW say.
They've been saying for years that they'll be coming in, and it's just kind of never happened. As you say, I'm just very sceptical it will. I mean, at the moment, it feels like it's the most concrete we've got to them saying they're actually going to be in the sport, but until we actually hear officially.
Until we get to a point where they've officially launched themselves as we are coming in, we're joining with possibly Red Bull with the Porsches, then yes, it's hard to. We've been here before, and it is skeptical, but it would be amazing to see those two brands in Formula One, and the fact that the VW group has said it's hard to argue against being in F1 at the moment is quite encouraging, which is something I don't think I've heard an engine manufacturer say ever about Formula One. They've always said it's very expensive. So, yeah, that's great to hear. Pat has said in the chat, he said the harbour area on the F1 22 game has more water than the real track. I suspect that's regarding Miami. The trailer for the track was out this afternoon, so that's something.
Part of me wishes there was real water on the track, but also it's the middle of a city. It doesn't have real water.
Miami. They do what they like.
It's a fantasy world.
One thing quickly, finishing on the VW thing, is they better have come in, because pretty much the 2026 engine regs have been written for them, haven't they?
Yes.
Dropping the MGUH and bumping up the K, that's pretty much a SOP to please VW, we want you in. Does this appease you? So yeah, they better not you turn this one.
And that sort of brings us all up to date with the F1 chat. We have, obviously, SNL is a GT7 league now. We have got our brand new league launched today. It is a GTE category, so Group 3 races, race cars, 5 races in the championship, and sign up is available on our Discord. 2 drivers are here. Signed up already, so we've got Matt Psycho and Wolfbane signed up. Excited, boys, or just thinking it's another jam mess that seems overly complicated, and we're just turning up to be part of some sort of carnage?
I mean,
Go on, Wolf,
it'll
you
be
go
interesting. It'll always be interesting. That's one thing I've always found with SNL. Anything will be interesting. It will find a way. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't really been doing much racing on GT7. See my pace at Daytona, and I've kind of been looking for an excuse to get into the game properly. And I don't know. It'll be interesting for sure.
I mean, I'm not forcing you to be in it, Wolfbane.
No, I'm absolutely being in it. No,
maybe sound a little bit more enthusiastic than. All right then.
Yeah, no, I am definitely looking forward to it. It's very different. It's very different to previous SNL stuff. It feels slightly touring car-esque, and touring cars was chaos and fun. So
touring cars was chaos and fun.
If it's
yes.
going to be chaos, you've got me on board.
Well, we've got a bit of tuning there as well, Matt. I know you love a bit of tuning.
Yeah, actually, it did make me laugh though in the chat on Sunday that a lot of people going, "Yeah, I just kept it bog standard, and it's like, I couldn't beat Silent Wolf, and I spent a lot of time tuning mine." But yeah, no, that's going to be good. I think part of I think reading between the lines, one of the reasons you've done it is because we had such fun on the 12-hour sharing setups and stuff, and
exactly
that was great. So yeah, because I'm still a bit peeved with sort of a few things I'm peeved with GT7 about, but why don't they allow brake balance in BOP? Why don't they do it? So allow them tuning, because like on Sunday I had mine all the way to the front because the Corvette just chews its rears. There's nothing I could do to stop it.
Oh, that's a good hint for the Corvette team. Thank you.
There you go. So yeah, endurance nut. There you go. BB to the front. But I really like the idea of tuning because the engineer in me comes out, and that's doing the research for the Bluffers Guide, even though it might not be of use to anyone. But I really enjoyed trying to get my head around that again. And also, it's really satisfying when little things like the Corvette is a bit of a boat, but just playing around with things like the LSD and the tow, I got it to turn in pretty much how I wanted it, and that's really appealing. So yeah, I'm not. I'm just looking at the lineup. We've got the new BRZ. Tiger's gone for that. I gave that a quick go.
Nice.
That feels a nice car to drive.
It's so sticky.
A bit slow on the straights,
I
but it
was
feels
going
good.
to race it. It does lack top end, but
Yeah, so that looks like a nice car. The 911, I've obviously lived many a race in the 911. I've never driven the Z4, and the Vantage I don't know that much about either.
I mean, the Vantage finished third, and was it sixth?
Yeah.
I mean, they were running very high. Bunnies was in third for pushing Matt Psycho and
couldn't shake him. He was a blinder.
He was driving well, and Tiny Terror was up there as well. I think he just had an issue with saving fuel, I think, at the end.
Yeah, he did.
So
yeah, that Aston is looking strong. The Z4 has always been something.
In the chat. What was behind the Z4, Pat? Stick it in the chat.
Yeah, Pat. tell
That's
us
unusual,
about.
that one.
Yeah, the Z4 is one I've always wanted to see in a league, so I'm pleased to see that here. So yeah, they're the cars, and the Porsche as well. Flashman's jumped on that Porsche. He was very quick actually at points. At the weekend was Flashman. So Flashman is the team boss at the Porsche team. So if you want to be involved with that, join us on Discord. Sign up. There is no limit on the number of drivers that can sign up because it's to give everybody an opportunity. Basically, we have drivers all around the world, and sometimes an early sign up gets missed because some people are just in bed. So that's the reason why there's no limit. If you're just hearing this now, sign up now. You've got until basically Saturday. We've got a driver auction, so we've got our team bosses will be bidding on drivers, and it will be live on YouTube. There we go.
It's going to be less drawn out than...
Oh, definitely. It's not going to take us 4 days. Which the last one, I think it was it went over 2 days. And that was just crazy. Was the driver auction? It's not going to go over 2 days. It's going to happen in one evening. We're going to be live on YouTube, as I say, and it's just we're going to have a bit of excitement and a bit of who's going to be driving where. It's going to be a bit like I've never watched the NFL, so I don't know if it's going to be like the NFL draft pick, but that's what I'm going to say. It's going to be like. No idea.
Can I do a really slow lap in qualifying?
Well. To be fair, Matt, your history and your record maybe goes beyond.
Lap.
You can have a go, but I think people might think you're sandbagging slightly. And you've said it on the podcast now.
Actually, you're the king of that, aren't you?
Well, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Pat will know what I'm talking about.
What do you mean? We won that Formula X Season 1 Team Championship absolutely fairly. It wasn't the fact that I was driving that car like it was a Group 3 car and didn't realise until everybody's lap time came in that I'd done that. And oh well, I'll be with Matt, I suppose. So there we go. There we go.
So
I had a few shortlisted.
Hour races, I think, isn't it? Roughly?
110 miles, so roughly about an hour and 10 minutes. So they're fairly chunky races. They're awkwardly spaced as well. 110 miles, you're going to have to do something with your tactics. Medium tyres are standard unless it rains. And we've got
Nürburgring.
because it rains there. I wanted a third track that rained, and I didn't want to use one we'd used, so I went Nürburgring, which is one we don't tend to use. Pat is in the chat. He shortlisted a few cars. That one felt the best in my control, and I've driven with the BMWs in leagues before as well, so Pat knows the car. It did help having you both in FX in Season 1. It would have been my team radio assistants that helped that. Yeah, Pat was on the team radio. And that's something, actually, we have the opportunity with the live races as well with the GTE Championship. Team bosses can be on the radio and giving you information. Just don't give Matt really long conversations as you're chatting, because he doesn't like that.
No, I do, just not on the call. I've turned into Hamilton. Don't talk to me in the braking zones. Actually, Pat was great as well. He was giving me feedback on Sunday, so thank you, Pat. That really was good. I think in Season 1 of FX, having sort of three-way conversations going on. Having the team, having Pat on the radio, giving us updates of who was doing what was great, and it really makes it feel like a team event as well. So, I'm looking forward to that.
It always makes races feel more alive when there's people you're talking to. Whether it be that you've got a team principal giving you updates, or if you don't have team principals, you've just got other people around. I know in Formula X, I was in a party with a couple of people, all down the grid, which was.
So that's why you won the championship then.
I mean, I did finish
one. We were getting them to move
in the party in the last race of the season, so you know.
So there we go. That is our GTE Championship that is on Discord right now. Join us. There'll be a little Discord link as well somewhere. We're working that out. If it all works, and we've got some brand new people in as well. So come and join us. Enjoy the fun. It's if the game all works as well, it's very annoying sometimes. But you've got me, and you can listen to me ramble on for about 40 minutes as we actually get the qualifying session finally finished. So the qualifying session will be 10 minutes again. So exactly like you've seen with the GT7 endurance races we've run. It should be great
actually.
fun.
Red Bull was great. I really enjoyed the Red Bull ring.
It
The
looked
Red Bull
like
ring.
a great race. I wish I could
Yeah,
have
it
raced.
was. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's frustrating, the connection. But yeah, once it got going, it was the dynamic time effects and stuff that just mega driving. And Mr. Silent Wolf as well. I seem to have a problem with wolves. It seems.
Basically, if you want to,
he drove brilliantly. So, and bunnies as well. It was great.
bunnies and wolves. Any animal basically will attack Matt, and he has problems with them. So if you want to beat Matt, call yourself something wolf. So I'm expecting for this GT Championship 14 wolves and 1 Matt Psycho. There we go. Anyway, let's go nicely into something where it's a wolf against a psycho.
Oh no.
It's the quiz.
Oh, I forgot about this. Yeah.
You forgot about the quiz? How dare you? I've changed the format because Matt was running away with it slightly last time.
Matt was running away with it after the one time.
Because Wolfbane didn't answer any questions correctly last time and has a record of getting about 1 right every week. So what I've got 2 envelopes in front of me, gentlemen, and one you can pick envelope A or envelope B to see which questions you get. There's 3 questions each. You can choose to answer the question without the multiple choice, and that's worth 2 points, or with the multiple choice, and that's worth 1 point.
Hang on, can I get a spreadsheet going so I can work out the best route through the through the jam maze?
Well, I've got Derek here as well. If you remember Derek's an old school reference there. He's got his balls ready. I'm going to circle the balls. There he goes, rattling with the balls, and out comes those balls as well. But anyway, back to the envelopes. Wolfbane, because you came second last week, do you want envelope A or envelope B?
Whichever one's on the left.
Oh, that is envelope A. So you've got envelope A. And Matt, do you want to go first or do you want to go second?
I will go first.
Oh, interesting. So, Matt is going to take the first question. If you are listening live, you can answer in the chat, but gentlemen, I'd like you not to look at the chat. So, Matt, who was the last American Formula One driver?
Ooh. Oh, go on, give us multi-choice.
The multiple choice question answers are Scott Speed, Michael Andretti, or Alexander Rossi.
Rossi.
It was Rossi. He drove for
I wasn't
Manor.
sure about him or Speed. So, when was Rossi?
2015 for Manor. He drove for 5 races. So, there we go. So, 1 point to Matt. Oh, Pat, straight away, Alexander Rossi in the chat. Bang. Pat is leading this quiz. There we go. So, Wolfbane,
yes.
When was Red Bull's last 1-2 finish before the last Grand Prix?
Oh, God.
I'd like the race and the year.
I know the year, I can't remember the race. Go on, give me the multiple choice.
Was it Malaysia 2016, Brazil 2013, or Azerbaijan 2017?
Malaysia 16, I believe.
It was. Fantastic. Well done, you. That's 1 point, so Wolfbane has got his point there.
Wolfbane. Well done,
Well done, you. You can tell I work with children. So, Matt Psycho, your second question. Which year did the Circuit of the Americas host its first F1 race?
I'd like to say 17, but I'm not sure. Go on, give us multi-choice.
Was it 2010, 2012, or 2014?
Oh, I was miles out. Oh, that's tough. I will go 12.
It was 2012. Pat also going for 2017 in his with a question mark. So whether he's questioning you, Matt, going how stupid are you? Going for 2017. It was 2012. So that is 2 points for Matt. So Wolfbane, your question.
Yes.
Matt might like this question. What team did Porsche last supply with engines in F1?
Why do you not give me his questions?
Well, he picked the envelope, so that's definitely in front of me.
Can I have the multiple choice, please? I have absolutely no idea.
Okay, so you've got McLaren, footwork, or arrows.
Oh God. Pretty sure it wasn't McLaren, but I might be completely wrong. I'm gonna go with a completely stab in the dark here and say arrows.
Oh, they were rumoured to have a super team with Porsche. Adrian Newey was going to design that car. Nigel Mansell was going to drive it. It was going to be an amazing car. But then they put the engine in the back of the footwork, and it was absolutely awful. Michele Alboreto driving that car. So
91?
Oh, there you go. That's why Matt Psycho is the quiz master. It was 1991. Absolute dog of a car. And not very quick at all. So
But
Porsche
McLaren did have the Porsche.
They did.
94, 95. 84, 85.
84, 84, 85. The tag Hoyer,
86,
the tag Porsche. That's it. Driven by which two drivers?
Lauda, Prost, and Rosberg.
And Rosberg as well. There we go. Fantastic. 3 drivers there. Right. So, Matt, as you are talking, your final question then. So you're currently leading 2-1. So this will put the pressure on Wolfbane. How many overall victories do Porsche and Audi have at Le Mans? So how many do they have combined?
God. Oh, dear. Oh, can I ask a friend?
It's quite a large number, actually, as well. So it's,
I'm not even sure the multi-choice is going to help either, but go on, multi-choice.
Is it 32, 35, or 42?
Oh, that's not even any point trying to count it. I'll go 35.
You've gone for 35. Pat in the chat, before he's got the options, has gone for 45. And the answer is 32. Porsche have won it 19 times and Audi have won it 13 times. They're absolute ridiculous numbers there from the two manufacturers. So, Wolfbane,
Yes.
you can win this.
I can win this.
You can win this.
Yes, I can.
Okay, if you can answer this without the multiple choice, you can win. If you get it with the multiple choice, you'll draw. And I don't have a tiebreaker, so yeah. Anyway, Wolfbane, last time Ferrari won at Imola was what year?
God. Oh, God. Oh. I have absolutely no idea. No, give me the multiple choice.
So the multiple choice is 2000, 2002, or 2004. I'm just going to check, though, because I have a weird, horrible feeling I may have missed one.
Okay. You check that. I'll sit here and think.
I may have got the question wrong. I had a horrible feeling there that I hadn't
rigged.
mentioned another year. So, yeah, out of those answers, when was the last time that they'd won?
Because
they won in
They
won in
one of those 3 years.
2006.
Okay.
Yeah, they won in 2006.
I'm gonna guess 2002.
Oh no, it's 2004. So even with the flawed question, I just had a horrible image there of thinking, hold on, no, Imola was around in 2006. Damn.
Yeah.
I thought the epic battle between Alonso and Schumacher was the last one.
I was
that was
gonna
5,
guess
and
2000 I was
and
gonna
I
guess 2007 without the multiple choice. But I was like, I can't actually remember when Imola was in the sport.
Yeah,
It was the most epically placed advert break in history.
It was. It was. And if you've listened to the podcast Bring Back V10s, you'll know why that happened with Ted Kravitz as the special guest. So, Matt, it doesn't matter about that final question that I completely messed up, because you win 2-1 to
Yay.
Wolfbane. There you go. You win absolutely nothing. Well done. So that is just the glory of winning. As always, the glory of winning is all that counts. There we go, dear listener. We've ended in a shambles, as always. I think these F1 podcasts end in shambles. They even end up with me going, I have no idea what to say at the end. Pat has said it was 2004, and he almost said 2006, but then it didn't come up as an option. Yeah, I mean, that's an incompetent quiz host, really, Pat. So there we go. All I can say is it's been a long day. There we go. And if you've enjoyed this rubbish, please give us a like.
Well done, Pat, by the way, for your answers on just getting back in the live chat.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Brilliant. Pat is the one that is keeping this whole thing afloat. Pat, do you want to come and host this? That might actually be a better way of going. But there we go. There we are. The F1 podcast. We will be back in a week's time, actually. Because so long as nobody's got anything planned, I mean, who knows? So we'll see you in a week, ladies and gentlemen. Anything
Will
to
the driver's
say?
auction be done by then, do you think?
Yes, it will. It's scheduled for Sunday, but you know we might be still going live with the drivers' auction. So we might be still auctioning off drivers as we do the F1 podcast. Join us for that. That will be fun. Any final thoughts, Wolfbane?
Don't think so. I mean, I got a point again. I got a point.
You got a point. You're
Back
consistent.
Back to consistency.
Back to consistency. Matt, the quiz champion. Any final thoughts?
Been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. See, I've stolen stuff off of the podcast because they do final thoughts on other F1 shows. I've stolen that subconsciously.
I must admit, actually, I've been watching a bit of the YouTube footage as we talk, and some of the roads that sort of Super Formula drives down. There's one of them had to do a 3-point turn and get around one of the hairpins.
Yep.
Listener, if you've not watched the video, watch the video all the way through and see how many different stupid places that Super Formula car gets to.
And then
That Red Bull livid.
those points again.
That'll keep you. That will keep you entertained. If this hasn't,
I can't
watch it on.
believe 3 people have managed to stay on the whole time. That's really quite.
That's
It's even more difficult than keeping a GT3 on the track at Red Bull Ring for an hour.
There you go. Pat says, "Don't think I could do that as well as you." Well, I assume, Pat, that you're talking about Matt and Wolfbane, because this is me just there again. Can't do an exit out of these things. I need to come up with an outro because I'm just rambling now. Anyway, good night, everybody. Bye. See you later.